keynote speaker and high performance coach. I help professionals and leaders, as you said, when they feel stuck or they feel frustrated or they feel disconnected from themselves. I find out what the subconscious beliefs are and I break them. The ones that hold them back to help them then feel confident, aligned in themselves, and very importantly, perform better in career, business, and relationships. And what's funny is I've always done this in a way since I was little. I mean, I remember even when I was little, girls would come up to me in elementary school and high school and just share what they were feeling. And I never thought anything of it. I just, connected with them, tried to understand them. And I just kind of helped the best way I could. I never never thought anything of it. I thought maybe everybody experiences this. And then I was always into the self-help section. Like when me, my mom, and my sister used to go to the library or the bookstore, half the time you'd see little Giovanni in the self-help section, reading, how to feel better, how to train your mind, or, how to, change your perspective, whatever it is. And I'd be like, going through it. But I never thought that would be possible to actually, live a life that way. I would just like, an interest for me. And then I would even be analyzing my teachers, not what they were, not the material, which I'm like, I should be focusing on, but the, how they were presenting, how they were talking, their body language and so forth. So I've always done that since I was little. So when I saw about the coaching profession in my mid 20s, I said, this is exactly what I've been doing. This is exactly what I love. And then I took courses and then I opened my business over a decade ago.
Sounds great. I can see that in you. I can see that help, how that you have found that your own experiences in your life has shaped the way that you now help and guide others in what you do. It seems many people are doing everything right on the outside, yet for many, something still feels off internally. Have you seen that your pattern helps in your type of work to relieve that issue inside of us?
Exactly. So many people are told how they should be, or they think they're, how they should be. And I'll give you a fast example. You sometimes hear about, health hacks or whatever. You know, um, eat these three foods and you'll feel better. And what I found, and maybe you found as well, and most people have found, is the right foods are right if they're for like the right foods for you. They're not right for everybody. So you might even have an intolerance to some foods, while other foods work best for you. We're told so often based on from our parents or teachers or social media, in this case TV in our time, um, society as a whole, of how we're supposed to be in order to get our needs met. And what I found is most of the time it's not true and it actually gives you pain. And from a personal story, so my personality is already that I like to be myself. I like to be in alignment with who I am, what I value, my beliefs, and basically be myself.
Good.
Growing up, I was told by somebody basically that they loved me, but I had to act different because somehow being an active, confident kid with, pretty good grades and some friends wouldn't give me success. As I grew up and as I started understanding better, they're speaking from their model of the world. They they never broke out from they were never able to be themselves. They never chose to be themselves. They always chose to follow somebody else or something else. So they stay in a box. So in my head, I was always myself. Like I would always like the first thing was myself, but I always had this thing in my head like myself, but I can't be successful being myself because this person told me A, B, and C. And the funny thing is, this person wasn't even successful. This person isn't even fulfilled at the levels I want to be fulfilled at. But I got these messages. I got these messages. So back to your question, what was it exactly? Because I remember it was very specific.
So how people feel things internally, and how have you seen that also in the work that you do?
They have say it one more time. They feel things internally.
It seems many people are doing everything right on the outside when
Okay,
we
right, yeah,
talk to them, when we see them on the street, when we're just wherever we might see them on a day-to-day basis.
yeah.
Yet we know that something still feels off for us, maybe for them internally. Have you seen a lot of that pattern in the work that you do?
100%. Most people run the pattern or patterns to try to be significant, like special, needed, wanted, and certain to feel like secure. And those are two of our six human needs. So we definitely do need to fulfill them. The problem is most people put those as like number one and two, right? As opposed to what I teach about putting loving connection first, or in your top two. Loving connection means being loving connection within yourself and being passionate about what you do. There's also the need of growth, to always grow, because if you're not growing in your business, in your career, and your relationship, you're dying. So it's to always grow, and then once you grow, you're able to contribute, right? And then the last need is the need of variety. Something that's different, new. It could be a podcast, it could be a new restaurant, it could be a new book, it could be having a conversation, something different in your business, something different in your career. You need that variety. But most people, especially in North America, they value significance first and significance first and certainty second. So people are giving you all these messages on how to be significant and how to be certain. And I could tell you from a little bit of my experience, but just everybody I've seen and people I've worked with, that's the recipe for disaster, basically. That's the recipe for not feeling fulfilled. Significance is you always want to, again, be special. So people get into careers because they want to be a somebody. People do businesses because they want to be a somebody. And it's crazy to me. An example for that is when they say, I said, why'd you get into this career? And they said, I did it for my parents.
Yes.
What? You're spending like a 1/3 of your life, I read recently, not to mention the effort and the emotion, everything you put into it for somebody else. It's because they want to feel significant. They want to feel proud in somebody else's eyes.
And that's one of the things I hear, and some of the things that you're saying, that significance in some ways is a justification either to the other person or to themselves. They're trying to justify what they're doing that is good, that significance brings value somewhere, somehow, right?
It brings value in a sense they get to feel good. They get to feel significant. And most people, the most common pattern I've seen in the world is most people try to be significant, special, needed, wanted, because what they really want is the next need, which is love and connection.
Tell me more. When you say the next need is loving connection, how do you
Sure.
define that?
Love and connection is feeling connected with yourself, feeling in love within yourself, and feeling loving connected with, let's say, other people, your community, could be God for some people, nature, some kind of connection. So most people run the pattern of if I'm significant enough, like I have the coolest car, or I have this job, or I have this, partner, let's say, or I look a certain way, or I have certain, jewelry, and especially in the North American culture, probably more in the American culture with the achiever culture, then people can't love but be like people can't help but be around me because they love me for what I do, right?
They
But
love you for what they know about you.
what they know about you, yeah, yeah, not for you,
Mhm.
what they know about you or for what you're able to exchange or give to them.
So when they're experiencing these things, or when we are experiencing these things, what do we think those moments are bringing to us? Like you're saying, it's that ability to be wanted, to be seen, to be recognized.
Yeah.
So those actual experiences, what are they bringing?
All humans' biggest fear is that they're not enough and they won't be loved. So trying to be enough somehow, if you're achieving, if you have the coolest this or the most money, or if you're the biggest helper in the world and you sacrifice yourself to help other people, then you think you're going to get a loving connection. So you're trying to ease, what you're getting is you're trying to ease the deepest fear that all of us have.
And when you talk about that love and connection, does that also seem, Giovanni, that we also have a lot of hurt from that lack of love, or maybe that love that we thought we felt at one time, but somehow there's a gap or maybe a break? Maybe that's in the connection and they've lost the love and that maybe have caused some hurt. How do we handle that?
That's a great question. So most people are hurt. Some examples are they loved somebody, but they didn't. That other person didn't love them back. Could have been a mother, father, anybody that was seen, like important in their life, especially growing up. So if you don't love me back, or if I think you don't love me, so it could be parents who are Some are maybe alcoholics or have addiction, for example. Some are just focused on their work. Some have an avoidant pattern in themselves, so they don't really connect with their children, which a lot of us have experienced. And then the child, because they're egocentric, they think there must be something wrong with me. So
So
then
it
there's
sounds,
hurt. Sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. No, please.
Love is like oxygen for the soul. So if we don't feel like we're getting it, we do anything to try to get it. So the child
Love
that
is like oxygen for the soul. Sorry to interrupt you, but I like that what you just said. Love is like oxygen for the soul. Okay, go ahead.
yes. Sometimes we downplay that in society. Oh, I love it. No, love is like what everybody wants. It's like again, oxygen for the soul. So when we're not feeling it, we'll basically do anything to get it. We'll try to be anybody. We'll shift ourselves, whatever it is, to try to be again significant enough to get that loving connection. It's it's a trade. Some people even do like a form of manipulation. Like I'll take care of you. I'll give you so much in such a significant way. I'll sacrifice myself and say that's all okay. So then you can't help but love. Or I'll work really, really, really hard to achieve. So again, I'm so significant. You want to be around me. So at least I get something, or at least I think I get something.
And then how many times do we know that we feel that way that, hey, I need to be around this person because they're important, but don't we also lose a little bit too with that because we're not feeling our own self-importance? We're maybe, hopefully, at least receiving some sort of importance from them, but how about growing our own self-importance? Don't we lose a little bit there?
We lose a lot there. And going on that path is already you're already done the path of I don't feel love within myself, so I'm trying to connect with something or somebody and who I think is important or significant. And I actually wouldn't even say self-importance. I understand what you're saying. I would say self-love or self-esteem. And sometimes that's a sappy term in terms of people think, well, I love myself. And that's not what I mean. By self-love, it's just being yourself. That's all it is. So I think the biggest pain, the biggest disconnect somebody has is when they don't feel the love that's naturally within themselves and they don't live that way. And by live that way, I mean, think of it as you do everything, or the highest value is you do things out of love and connection. So if you're helping somebody, you're not doing it because you're for a trade. You're not doing it for, because I feel like I'm such a good person when I do it. You do it because you feel full within yourself, the love within yourself, and then you want to help. No strings attached. That doesn't mean you sacrifice yourself. If you don't want to help, you don't help. But if you want to help, you help. If you want to be yourself, you're yourself. If you don't like, but you come from a place of your glass half full.
I like that idea too, and that's a positive one for me. From what I'm hearing you saying, though, Giovanni, is that it sounds like where awareness is where everything begins to be aware. Have you found that many people are not fully listening to themselves?
That's a great question. So I think some people hear themselves and they try to push it down, right? Because that's the model they got growing up. Like, do what I love? No, no, no. I've always wanted to do what I love, but no, 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 no. Because I mean, how am I going to make any money doing that? The need of certainty. Or, oh, I'm going to be just this profession, for example. So they push that down. So I think deep down, almost everybody knows, or most people know what they really want and what they really feel.
I
And
like
sorry,
what
can you
you're
say the
saying.
question? Go ahead, go ahead.
Sorry.
Oh yeah. So the awareness is half of it. So sometimes there's meditation and so forth, and the awareness is great. I just think that's one piece of the puzzle. The awareness, and then now it's actually figuring out why you run those patterns. Once you figure it out, what needs you're trying to meet by running those patterns, then you can find easier, more natural ways to meet those needs. So you don't have to run those patterns anymore.
Okay, when you talk about those patterns, are we talking about comfort levels, areas where we've been the times, and the areas where we feel more comfortable? Tell me about when you're saying those patterns.
Yeah.
Share that a little bit further, if you would, please.
So we all run on patterns. So when somebody says, when I say, you think you're the achiever, they go, no, I've always been this way. Maybe not. Now, some people are naturally achievers in the sense they want to achieve, but the pattern of trying to achieve to feel significant and then somebody can love you, that's a pattern that you learned. It's not who you are. It's a pattern you've learned. That's why I
Is
say
it
I
who
find,
you is it who you choose to be in that pattern? Or are you saying some of those patterns are not chosen? They're given to you or received from someone else.
at some level, at some time, you made a decision to take that on, right? There's subconscious mechanisms why you probably did that. You got loving connection for it, you got significance for it, you got certainty for it when you felt very uncertain in your life, whatever it was. But
So
you
if you
still
don't
made
have
the
that,
decision.
so if you don't have that loving connection, are you feeling distancing? Is that what I'm hearing?
If you don't allow yourself to feel the natural loving connection, you start to value significance and certainty. Does that make
So
sense?
it does. And if you're not listening to yourself, what's getting away from that internal dialogue? Are we still talking about the culture again, the way we're raised, those patterns you're talking about? What's getting in the way of our own internal dialogue that we do that and why we go those directions?
That's a great question. So I always say there's influence around us. There's parents, school, social media, culture. At the end of the day, it's you decide if you want to live that way or if you want to be yourself, right? I mean, the outside world, the external world is a strong influence. But again, if you when you learn, this is what I teach my clients. When you learn the needs, we all need loving connection. Okay, for sure. But the way you're trying to get it, like if you're saying loving connection means I have to be friends with everybody, or most people have to like me, then that's a belief, and you're going down a certain road that's giving you pain. When loving connection becomes loving connection with myself first, that's easy or that's simple because it's within yourself. And another thing I say is, as long as you have your group of friends, if it's two or three friends or whatever you call your group, like that's the connection. So now that becomes a much easier path.
Well, when you talk about that group, some of the things that I talk about are groups or parties or teams that go well together, but do they also push others away or push others apart when they have that group? How are they being inclusive as they create that group and that loving and that connection? They don't have to be liked by everyone, but how small or large is that group going to be?
Well, I guess it depends on the person. That's a good question. Depends on the person. And it's not so much about exclusivity. I believe, again, my belief is the people who actually really get you, who could actually really open up to, is probably a small number of people, generally speaking. It doesn't mean about being exclusive. It's levels. For example, there's acquaintances or friends, and then best friends, and then people who you would say anything to. For example, the point is more. Don't think that everybody is your close friend, or don't try to make everybody your close friend, or don't try to make everybody try to like you. Life usually isn't like that. It doesn't have to be. That's why I'm saying as long as you have, at least for starters, your two or three best friends or whatever it is, that's the base. And then obviously other people you can obviously have in your community or group at whatever level you want.
And I like what you're saying because you're going to have closer friends. There's no doubt about it. There's some people you're going to connect with. The patterns are going to be parallel. They're going to be very close to each other. But can we also listen to others outside the group that maybe we don't even get along with to start with? Not that we're all going to be part of that same group, but that ability to listen and learn outside of our few best friends and maybe pick up a little bit more of what we're doing and how we can get along with others, not necessarily best friends, but still to listen more and learn more about those outside of our circle.
Yeah. So especially with the you want to call it polarity, especially in the U.S. political landscape currently, or just in life in general. There's a lot of division like that. And I think that's what you're referring to and saying, no, we could actually learn from other people. And of course we can. Of course, yeah. So I think it's to not confuse like, okay, this is our tribe and like you're away from there. That's not I guess what I'm saying, I'm saying you just have your close friends and then obviously you can learn from all different groups and all different people as well. I agree with that. Yes.
Oh, that is so good. I'm glad that's great because a lot of people that we see, they seem to be very successful on paper,
Yeah.
but they're still very disconnected from themselves internally. Do you see that in some of the people that you work with?
That's probably the biggest piece I see in the people I work with, right? So this usually comes in your 20s, you might feel good. You're like you're starting at the company, you have a suit on or whatever it is, and you're making money. Like you actually probably feel good in your 20s doing this.
Powerful.
You feel powerful, exactly. You feel significant. You feel certain. Those two things. You're the boss of this, or you work at this, place or whatever. You're making, you were making $1,000 working before a month. Now you're making $5,000 or $6,000. You gain sales. You're getting promoted. Woo! I feel significant. So I'm all about doing what you love and making as much money as you want doing it. Okay, so I'm not the coach that says just do what you love. Do what you love and make the most money you want doing it. So I do support money, but not as a money thing, as a like that's just part of it. When you do so good and you give value, you make money. So I thumbs up to money or thumbs up to results basically. But when someone's going, okay, money makes me feel significant, that's where the disconnect and the pain happens. So as we were saying, in your 20s, you feel powerful, you feel good. In your 30s, you're happy that you have that job because it could provide for your family and for especially for men for the life they're building with let's say their wife and their kids and whoever it is or just for themselves. People tend to start feeling the pain about in their early 40s, right? Because there's physiological changes that happen as well, where people come in, they start saying, I don't know what's happening. I feel disconnected. I feel stuck. Basically, it's worked for them for all this time, more or less. But now they're saying, what do I really want? And so you can see this in men. You can see this very clearly in women, especially in their late 30s into their early 40s. What do I really want? And for women, nowadays they're taught to be, boss babes, especially the new generation, or, work in corporate or whatever. And if that's who you are and that's what you love, 100%, all perfect for anybody. But if you're doing that because you're trying to like have an image based on society, that's when in their 40s they come to me and start saying, I feel disconnected. I feel like I'm not being myself. I'm not doing what I want because they were never doing what they really want.
Hey, Giovanni, that's a good point because so many times those patterns that you've talked about that we learn, and you mentioned when we're working in the 20s and maybe even sometimes in high school, that first job, and we're making that minimum wage and that we feel powerful and we're growing and we go to college and we have our college degree, we go to work, here's the mom and dad, here's the children, here's that routine, that pattern. And then we get to our 30s, like you say, in the 40s, kids are growing, some of them are grown. Now we're theoretically out on a new path, a new world, things are different. There's a change. And sometimes is that when we don't pause to listen still to ourselves, but maybe we're arguing with ourselves about, well, that's what I was taught to do. Like you're saying, for mothers, they're taught to be, that's what they have to be as a mother. That and some of them have learned that, well, that's all I have to be as a mother. That's what I have to do because that's what I was chosen to do, instead of being a mother and something else to
Yeah,
get out of that pattern. So I think what I'm hearing you say is that pattern that we've learned from being young, from our culture, other people coming along, when we're in our 30s or 40s, the kids are getting out, maybe we have that time to pause and listen to ourself more so we can continue down that path if we want to, but it may not be aligned, or we can create a new path, can't we?
of course, always. And the new path that, some people think it's new is actually not new. It's just yourself. It's just going back to yourself. Now, I mean, obviously, you take the steps, whether it's joining whatever community, with joining whatever activity, starting whatever business, or whatever you do, or maybe a new career path. It might even be a similar one, but it's like a very slight change in it. Um, so yeah, it's basically that's why it's mindset. It's basically getting back to who you really are, what you really
So
value, and then now taking the steps.
I like what I'm hearing you say, Giovanni. That's excellent. How do you help people recognize that earlier?
Right. I want to say you can't, in the sense people have to be ready for it. People have to come to you with pain and be like, oh, I can never, like, this has been so painful for all these years and so forth. Now, obviously, I could offer, if they say someone in their 20s and they go, okay, I'm working in this business and I feel so powerful, whatever it is, and I might say, okay, that's great. And I'm telling you now to go into something you love because I've seen this pattern before. And then in your late 30s and into your 40s, you're going to regret this and you're going to start, making different decisions. So do it now is what I would say. Whether they take it or not, again, it depends on how much pain they're currently in. And if they're going woo, they're probably not in that enough pain at that point.
And that's where I hope we can continue working together because that's where I help people that it's never too late, but the later you wait, the more challenging and tougher it gets. So we want to make sure, like you're doing, to help people see that because if they don't know, if we don't know there's a place to turn, we can't turn. If we don't see that why in the road, we're going to go the same way everyone else has gone, aren't we?
Yes. Again, until your 40s, until there's enough pain, you start looking around. Start going, what else is there?
Mhm. So once someone begins to listen to themselves many, many times, they listen to themselves and reflect. Have you found that that clarity that you help people work with starts to form naturally?
Yes. So that's part of it. So when they, like you said, listen to themselves or have awareness, things become more clear. And working with a coach, a top coach, let's say, or a top professional, if it's me or if it's you or whoever, to now help them figure out the other pieces. So they might say, I know I'm feeling pain in this. I know I actually value that. And then what do I do? Like what's going, and then so you could, as a coach, let's say me or you, or a professional like me or you could say, okay, well, you've been doing this because you want significance and now you want love and connection. Okay, you know that. I'll show you a way to do that in a way that you get to do what you love and make, let's say, a lot of money doing it. So I think
I
you
love
usually need that coach or that professional to now help you with the next steps.
I love what you're saying. That is so true, and help them take that next step because you being such a high performance coach, the value that you bring, helps them because it seems that many people struggle to put those thoughts into clear direction. And I can see you helping them define what they truly want based on their needs, right?
Yes, based on their needs and values. Yes,
That's great because sometimes it's more difficult for people to be honest with themselves than we realize. They can think about being honest with others,
right.
but being honest with ourselves can be challenging at times because there's always that balance, that fulcrum that, well, yeah, I can do that, but I could also do this, right? And how can they come to you or me, but how can they come to you and be able to make that next step, to begin that path, start a new pattern, to do what they wanted to do, whether they're 30, 40, 50, or beyond?
For sure. People are honest with themselves more so when they're in a lot of pain and they're ready to do something different. So I don't work with anybody or everybody.
Mhm.
What I mean by that is I make sure they're ready because my business is built on results, and the goal is to get the results for you and for me. So
Mhm.
if someone's not 100% ready, that's okay. We'll schedule another day and time to follow up on that.
Mhm.
So when they're ready, some people say, like, some people are honest, and I go, that's great honesty. And they go, well, you know what? If I'm here, like, I'm doing it, so they're in that stage, number one. Number two, people are honest when they feel more certain or more confident that you could help them, right? So let's say, you help with businesses, and I feel really confident with, you, Mark, that you could help, transform my business. I'll be honest. I'll say, okay, these are all the things I've done, and this is the mindset I've used, and all this kind of stuff. And I'll just give it all to you because I feel comfortable. And then I know that you're going to translate that to say, okay, perfect. Now I'm going to show you what works. So it's their readiness and the comfortability to show them. So I'll give you an example. Have you ever met somebody who they were doing like the wrong thing, meaning they were hurting themselves, let's say in business or relationship, they were going out with the wrong guy or the wrong woman, and you could see this, and it's so clear to almost everybody they're going out with the wrong
It
person.
it seems obvious, but
Yes, and it probably is. Say it again.
I'm agreeing with you
Yes.
because people like that, they're doing the things wrong, and what they're doing wrong seems obvious to us, but let you continue on with what you were saying.
Yeah.
Because
So it's sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, no, it seems obvious to us. It seems obvious to see it, but why don't they see it?
So I think they do see it at a certain level. What they're doing is, if this okay, so they're going out the wrong man, let's say. But before they met this man, they were feeling incredibly lonely, like very insignificant, very uncertain. With this man, even the story they tell themselves, even if it's not true, but the story they tell themselves about this relationship with this man is making them feel connected for the first time in who knows how many years, is making them feel special in some way. At least he calls me, or at least whatever. At least he gives me attention. It makes me feel certain. At least I know at least some kind of path that I'm going down. Now, if this person it was not meeting their needs before, and they're meeting their needs at high levels with this person, there's nothing you could say in that moment that's going to change that, or not, quote unquote, nothing you could say that's going to change that, because they have to meet their needs. The only way is when they realize there's a lot of pain going on, that they're not meeting their needs anymore. And then you show them, okay, I know what you really want is loving connection. Do you want me to show you an easier way? Yes, please. You want to feel significant? Do you want me to show you in an easier way? Yes, please.
And I
that's
like what you're
that's one.
saying. Sorry to interrupt you here, but that's one of the things that you mentioned a couple of times, that word pain. And a lot of times we've heard that pain versus pleasure, we avoid the pain much more than we concentrate on the pleasure, right? That
Yes.
pain is a much larger trigger.
Yes.
And some of the things that I work on, and I work with male, female, mother, father, man, woman, and many times, as you're saying, that path, that pattern that they're on, that ability they have to talk to someone, that short-term release means something to them because it gives them that love, that reflection, that connection. But it may not be more than a pause. Where are they taking this feeling, this relationship to the next level? And going from what you're saying, taking into that love and that caring, how are they benefiting personally within inside themselves in those
By,
situations?
for example, by going out with the wrong person.
Or the person they're going out with gives them that little bit of positive, that little bit of, here's a pattern I like. That's what I'm getting a little bit of it here, but so much others is, well, I've got all this other part of my life doing all these other things, but here's this small part. That maybe a little bit of communication, a little bit of collaboration. Maybe I'm learning a little bit from this one person, but as far as a full relationship, maybe there's still a challenge. Do I hear you talk about some of the times that we do that? That connection is that loving connection is there, but it's on a small part. The pain of the rest of it is not large enough for them to change or to take that next step for a better pattern. What do you
Yes,
think?
exactly. Yeah, great question. So some people will, put up with, accept crumbs. When you're starving, you'll accept crumbs, right? Another thing is, and I do this with people who are in business, and I've seen this at least twice, maybe even at least twice with two different clients. They were with the wrong business partner. Why? So the business partner was ignoring their needs, was being selfish, and all those all that kind of all those traits. Why were they with that person? Because the client, when they first came in, that's how they treat themselves. They ignore themselves. They treat themselves badly. They breadcrumb themselves. So now they connected with somebody who mirrors their subconscious view of themselves because that creates certainty. So that's where we say, okay, well, why is that view like that of yourself? Once, and then they say, oh, because of these beliefs or these things that happen. Okay, so that's when we start breaking the beliefs, start breaking the patterns, and they say, oh my God, why am I with this person anymore? And going to be a business relationship. And then that's when, in my experience, my clients have, stopped being partners with them, and have this has happened at least 3 times, and has flourished after, because thanks to that.
And as you mentioned, those crumbs are important to those that are hungry. It may be a crumb to some people, but if you're hungry, that crumb may be their meal, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then have we noticed that when people gain that clarity, the things that you bring to them to learn that it might be the wrong partner, but when they gain that clarity that you bring to them, doesn't their confidence begin to shift more positive as well?
Yes. Their self-esteem, firstly, so they allow themselves to feel the love that's naturally inside themselves, and the confidence of I'm able to do what I want. Basically, I'm able to make happen my vision, right? So that's why, I had a client that was working for somebody else, and then they opened their own business. So obviously they're making more money, but it's what you were saying. They're more clear on who they are, what they want, and now they put certain action. Now they have their own business. They're able to hire their family, maybe their friends in the future, or whoever, their community, people in their community. So obviously 100% it helps their confidence.
I like the way you do that too, because it sounds like once the clarity is present, that next challenge is knowing where to start. And it sounds like, Giovanni, that you help them. You help people break things down into those manageable steps and grow forward. Am I right?
Partly. So what I do is I'm the mindset guy. They either know what to do or they could figure out what to do. I'm more the key that unlocks their mindset. Now, if there's certain areas that I could help them with, if it's communication, if it's understanding, it could be, business partners or potential business partners, or just anybody in their life, in a relationship, I help them understand this person. Okay, they could tell me, A, B, and C about this person. And just from that, I could get a profile of the picture. And I go, what I think is happening or what I think this person is doing is A, B, and C. Do you want to have a relationship with this person? Do you want to get into business with this person? So that's where I'm able to help. In terms of the actual steps, that's not my forte, but they usually know what to do or where to go to find what to do.
Get focused. I like what you're talking about because that's part of what it is, being focused. And in reality focused dynamics, we focus on creating solutions based on what is real, not assumed. How does your work help people move from those assumptions to clarity?
Again, I think some people live in, if we want to call it delusion or not reality, because it meets their needs again. Right? So they grew up and they ignored themselves, but ignoring themselves, and they ignore themselves, and they say, no, because I'm just helping my family, or I'm just helping my brother, sister, friend, whatever, which may be also true, but they're ignoring the fact that they're sacrificing themselves to do this. They were put in a, not an unhealthy position to have to do this, but it meets their needs, or that's how they learned that it meets their needs in the moment. So they're going to do it, and they're going to make up excuses. So that's the delusion that happens with, a lot of us.
Mhm.
But when I show them that, okay, again, you just did this because you want to meet the need of significance, you want to meet the need of love and connection, you want to meet the need of certainty. That all makes sense. That's what you chose at that time and place. Good, like give yourself a pat on the back because you figured out what to do at that time. Might not be the best thing, but you figured out something to do. Now that you're 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, you want to make a different decision now? Yeah, of course. Okay, I'll show you another way to do it.
I like that because it sounds like you have found that success becomes more sustainable when it's built on that truth and alignment. Am I seeing that correctly?
Yes, and that's also what I help both individual one-on-one clients and then also in corporations. So when I go in and do a keynote speech at a corporation at an organization, it's about sustainable performance. Okay, because when somebody is doing, where someone's valuing significance, they're pushing themselves, pushing themselves, pushing themselves, and that might sound good. And I believe in going for what you want, but if you're pushing yourself with all this stress, what that leads to is burnout and costly turnover, which is very, very expensive for the company. I've read something like if I remember the stats correctly, it's like a 4,000 percent more they have to pay every time a new employee rolls over, like has to quit or whatever, even if it's silent quitting. Um, so the sustainable performance is when you do something out of love and passion, for example, where you love what you do. So you're not stressed because you love what you do. I mean, obviously, you sometimes work a little bit longer than maybe you should, or a little bit shorter, whatever it is. But because you're doing it out of love, it's a different fuel you use. And then when you notice yourself maybe getting tired mentally or emotionally, you're able to stop for the night or stop for the day, as opposed to pushing yourself and then leading to burnout and turnover.
And that's good too. I love what you're saying, Giovanni, because being able to know coaches like us that they have someone they can turn to relieve that stress, to have that stress shield, because it's such an impact in so many ways. It's amazing. I love what you're saying. So as we bring this conversation together, what would you want every listener to pause and reflect on after hearing this discussion?
Two things. One is you can be yourself and be successful doing it. And in fact, being yourself can help you be more successful because you love what you do and you're always learning and growing and contributing. And that's the basis for business, I believe.
So have you found that as a closing statement, have you found that when people truly align who they are with what they do, everything begins to change to improve?
Yes. Yeah. And it's interesting how much it does change sometimes. Their relationships, their business, their career in ways they never thought, different decisions they make and so forth. And I want everybody to know that a lot of us are told to consciously tell ourselves something. Your subconscious beliefs are the drivers, not what you consciously try to tell yourself in the mirror or whatever. So it's your subconscious you address first.